Welcome back to the Sibling Group Chat. I'm Owen.
And I'm Cassidy.
And today we're back at it with the Odyssey Review, Episode 12, The Tangled Web.
Yes. This episode first aired on February 6th, 1988. It is part of Album 1, The Adventure Begins. And in this episode, Connie reads the story of Jeremy Forsyth, a boy who tells his mother a fib about some missing money. Both Jeremy and Connie learn that one lie leads to another. And the themes here are honesty and lying.
Yep. Just before getting into it, I'd say it's a good episode. You know, this is nice after the last Odyssey episode we reviewed. Like, we're back to normal, good Odyssey, you know, nothing problematic, I don't think.
Yeah, an all-around good, solid, classic episode.
Yes. So, starting into it, we get a little intro about how a little white lie can get out of hand. It's honestly, I feel like it doesn't prove that point all that well. I don't know.
It kind of just proves that your lies can come back to bite you, maybe, because it's like these ladies who, like, this one lady, like, gave this other lady a hat she didn't like, but told her she liked it, and then, I don't know, it's this whole train of ladies giving other ladies this hat that they tell them they get rid of it because they never wear it, but it's actually ugly. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of more about gossip, I feel like, than lying, but those can go hand in hand.
Yeah. Then Chris has a little intro talk / trivia question about Abram and Sarai telling a lie in Egypt, and then asks do you know what the lie was? And then that's her the trivia's back.
Yeah, I feel like this isn't a great story to bring up for younger children, but
probably not.
I guess it's the Bible, so you got to know it all at some point.
It's in the Bible and it's a lie, so
yeah. Did you notice?
That sounded really bad.
Yeah, it did.
It's an example of a character in the Bible telling a lie.
Glad you got that. AI is going to pick right there for our reel for this episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you notice that Chris called this a way out story, which is how she called A Gifts from Magic Guy? She called that one a way out tale.
Oh, so maybe that's just how she talks about Mr. Whitaker's personal stories.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's hop into the episode. It starts at wit's end on a quiet day. Chris feels the need to tell us that there's kids working on inventions in the corner. They have nothing to do with the episode, but
I guess just so we know that Connie's not shirking her duties.
Yeah. So then Connie's on the phone with a friend of hers named Debbie. Have we heard about Debbie before?
I don't think so. I think she was writing to Marcy in California.
Well, Debbie's an Odyssey.
Yeah.
Debbie is an Odyssey friend. And they're talking about going to a concert that night. And then she says she has to ask Whit if she can leave early. She's also, she's not planning to tell her mother about this either. Mm-hmm. So, she gets off the phone and Whit is coming right at that moment. And so Whit has a box, I think, of old books, stories he's written. And then
something like that, yeah.
They talk briefly about that, and then Connie asks if she can have the afternoon off. And the first reason she gives is because she's spending the night at her friend's house. It's kind of pointless if you did spend the night, if you to get off the afternoon if you need to spend the night, and that's what Whit's like. Why do you need to leave early to spend the night somewhere? And she's like,
yeah, Whit is immediately suspicious.
Yeah, it's like, we just wanted to do some things.
Yeah, then Whit's like, oh, that's fine, but you gotta help me go through these stories first.
Yeah. And I was thinking this whole time, I was like, it's so Whit-like to just pull out the right story at the right time, and then at the end of the episode you find out he actually knew what he was doing, which Whit always knows what he's doing, but... So anyway, Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So they were going to organize them so Whit could put them in the library, I think.
Something like that.
But the first one they pull out is the Tangled Web, a story that Whit wrote a while back, and he immediately tells Connie, "Oh, you should read this one. It's what does he call it? Cute."
Yeah,
it's a cute story.
Yeah, it's a weird way to describe your own work. I feel like.
Yeah. But yeah. So he tells Connie to read it. She's like, "Oh, we don't have to waste time on that." And he's like, "No, no, no, go ahead, read it." So Connie starts reading it. It's a story about a boy named Jeremy who's about. It starts with his mother telling him that he's about to be late for school.
Yeah, well, we should also preface this for people who haven't listened to the episode. The rest of the story proceeds like you're hearing the story happen. You don't hear Connie narrating the whole thing.
Yeah. So Jeremy then rushes downstairs, says, "Well, I'm about to be late. Don't have time to eat breakfast." To which his parents are like, "No, no, no, hold up there, Buster." They don't call him Buster, but they're like, "You have time to eat." And he's like, "Oh man, I don't want to eat oatmeal. Why do I always have to eat oatmeal?"
He's like, "You guys never eat oatmeal."
Yeah, he's like, "You guys never have to eat oatmeal," and his dad's like, "It's because we already had our life's allotment of oatmeal."
It's not very helpful for his dad to say, because his dad's basically saying, "I hate oatmeal too, but if I had to eat it, so do you."
Yeah. Well, I feel like for most of this conversation until towards the end, his father is agreeing with Jeremy, like, passive aggressively.
Yeah, that's kind of true, because he does make some comment about the mom always.
He's like,
Yeah,
even when you're an adult, people will need to tell you what to do. And then his mother, like, right after that says, "Hey, I need to ask you to do a favor." And he's like, "See what I mean?"
Yeah. Did you notice? Jeremy is voiced by Dave Griffin, later voice of Jimmy, and Roger, the dad, is voiced by Phil Lawler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed they were familiar voices. I don't associate as well as you do, but I knew they were familiar voices.
Yep.
So yeah, Jeremy's mother, the favor she's asking is that she needs the dad to pick up some flour at the store for her on his way home. Turns out his dad can't because he has to work late that day. So I'm assuming the reason he can't is because the store will be closed by the time he's done. That's what it
I
seems
guess,
like.
or the mom needs it before he'll be home or something like
Yeah.
that.
So anyway, then she asks Jeremy to get it after school, and he doesn't want to because it's his day to go to Wits End. Just before we talk about, like, he apparently only has one day he gets to go to Wits End. I think it's kind of funny that Wit writes Wits End into his own story.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna write myself in there.
Yeah. But anyway.
It would be probably even funnier if Wit himself was in the story, but he's not.
He is mentioned in the story. He's not actually in the story, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird that this kid only, like, it's his day to go to Wits End. Like, he's only allowed to go on certain days or something like that.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he doesn't want to because it's his day to go to Wits End, but after school, he's kind of, it doesn't say exactly where he is, but anyway, he's somewhere in between the store and Wits End. It seems like maybe it's where his path would deviate. Usually, if he was going to Wits End, he'd go one way, but since he needs to go to the store, he's going the other way.
Something like that.
It kind of seems like he's just standing there.
Like, longingly watching all the kids go to Wits End.
Yeah, like, he stopped there and just watched everybody, And then his friend Humphrey?
Humphrey.
Yeah. Yeah. Great name. Just solid name right there.
Uh-huh.
His friend Humphrey told him about this new display about movie cameras.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because Jeremy's like,
yeah.
What?
I was gonna say, and that Wit has a new ice cream machine and he's giving away free ice cream.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy's like, "Man, I really want to see that display. He's been waiting for it. Now have your point."
So this whole, like, his comment of, like, "I've been waiting for this one," makes it feel like there's, like, a schedule of displays, or, like, I always kind of felt like as soon as Mr. Whitaker added something to Wits End, it was always there.
Yeah. It did seem a little odd, but, also maybe this Wits End is a fictional Wits End that Wit wrote about,
It's a fictional Wits End within fictional Wits End.
Uh-huh. Yeah, anything is possible.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy it.
So anyway, he really wants to see the new display, get some ice cream, and he's like, "Well, if I'm really quick, I can go see the stuff and then get back." Which it seems like he's pretty quick. He goes, he sees the display, gets a small cone or something like that, a little bit of ice cream, and then he heads for the store, only to find that he has lost his money at some point.
Yep.
His money that his mother gave him specifically for the flour.
Mm-hmm.
So what in the world is Jeremy going to do now? Come back next week to find out.
Lie to his mom. What did you say?
I said, come back next week to find out. This is how we make extra episodes, folks. No.
We're two-parting one episode stories, and we're gonna one-part the 2 episode stories.
Just to keep you on your toes. No, not really. We're gonna finish the episode. So Jeremy heads for home because he can't really get the flower now. So he comes in the door and his mother's like, Jeremy, is that you? Did you bring the flower? Jeremy's like, no. And then, so his mother's like, and why not? And so Jeremy, well, first he just says he lost the money, which is, to this point, he is told the truth. He's just trying to figure out how to tell it in a way so that he's not grounded because he just lost money.
Yeah. Which, before we go on, if he felt that he had time to go to Wits End without his mom knowing, couldn't he have just asked if it was okay if he went to Wits End in the first place?
Yeah, you would think.
But it's not how Mr. Whitaker wrote it. We gotta trust Mr. Whitaker's story.
Excuse me. So yeah, Jeremy says the first thing that comes to mind, which was that someone took it from him in between school and the grocery store.
Mm-hmm. And I like his mom. His mom is like, do you know who it was? And then she goes, oh, that's a stupid question. Like a robber's going to introduce himself.
Yeah. Well, you never know. But I feel like it's not a completely stupid question because, like, if it was a school bully or something, it would be probable that he would know who it was.
Yeah. I
just
think the mom's line is funny.
Yeah. The most unbelievable part of that line to me, or that little conversation, is when Jeremy says, like, you pushed him into an alley or something. Like, how many alleys are there in Odyssey?
It depends on your definition of an alley, I suppose.
I guess. But, so anyway, after Jeremy tells his mother that the money was taken, his mother completely forgot about the flower and just freaked out.
Mm-hmm. And we need to note here that from this point on, every time the story is retold, the lie grows bigger. Because first, Jeremy just says somebody took it. Then he says he was pushed in an alley by a teenager. And then his mom starts telling the story to other people, and other people start telling the story to other people, and every time it just grows a bit bigger.
For sure. So yeah, the first thing that she does after she finishes freaking out is call Mr. Forsyth, who then calls a teacher, who is appalled as well. Who then
I love the little voices in the background that you can't really understand them.
Who then calls the supermarket. I don't know what that was supposed to do. Like, excuse me, someone was robbed on their way to your store today. What can you do about it?
Yeah.
But then the market person called the police. And
finally.
And then there was immediately like an all-out news bulletin that some kid was robbed on the way to the grocery store, is the impression we get. So, just going to point out, and this goes to it being a way out tale, and Mr. Whitaker saying that's a little far-fetched or something. He says something about that. Mr. Whitaker was writing this story to show that if you lie, it just compounds and builds on itself. He was not writing it to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there's this news bulletin sent out, and then police are sent over to talk to Jeremy. But first, before the police get there, their neighbor, and let me see if I get this name right. I got the name as Harry Snoopnagel.
That's what I got.
Okay. Yes, Harry Snoopnagel came over. And apparently he's something of a self-described detective.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Harlow Doyle, Officer Harley, but it's a different voice, so you know they are trying for something a little bit different.
Yeah. But anyway, he comes over and first talks about the dad, and he's like, where were you? And the dad's like, at work. He's like, oh, so you're a workaholic.
I feel like this whole character is a parody of someone, but I don't know who it is.
Yeah, me neither.
But it feels like a parody that some people would know what they're basing it off of.
It does also feel a little bit like Harlow Doyle later on.
A little bit, yeah.
And I just want to point out, Harry, this neighbor Harry, is the first time, and I don't think this is the last time we find a character who does this in Odyssey, but like every time he's like, don't you think? Yeah? Like, I don't know exactly how. You know what I'm going at, though?
Yeah, but I feel like that's the thing. I feel like that's probably parodying some other pop culture reference of the 80s or something.
Yeah, there's something there that we don't know, but other Odyssey characters do it. At some
Yeah.
point, it happens. I know it
Speaking of
does.
other things that Harry does that later Odyssey characters do, is listens to the police band on the radio.
Yeah.
Do normal real life people do that? Because there's a lot of people in Odyssey who do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's more common than you never know. We weren't alive.
Yeah.
But,
Audience, do you listen to the police band?
yeah. So then one thing that I find kind of funny is he's going to talk to Jeremy. He's like, well, the best way to figure out all the facts is the 4 W's, which I believe would be who, what, when, where. And then his mother's like, what about why? He's like, make that the 5 W's. And then his dad's like, what about how? He's like, make that 5 W's and an H. But then what that made me think of was Busy Town Mysteries, because all I could think of was who, what, when, where,
Who,
why,
what, when,
how.
where, why, how. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Yes. At least they use it correctly, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the way, if you've never seen the Busy Town Mysteries show,
Animated series.
yeah,
Yeah.
great. We might have to just review that someday because it's amazing. Don't watch it all
The
in one
peak
sitting.
childhood TV show. I mean, you could, just to prove to yourself that you can.
Yeah, we did it. We regretted it, but
We just had a mild case of TV brain.
yeah, just a mild case. So anyway, once the police get there, or no, actually it's still Harry there. He says that the mayor has heard about how at this point the story goes that Jeremy stood up to this bully and like fought him or something in the alleyway.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to give
And
him.
Harry thinks he was going to buy his mother flowers.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that's the most understandable part of how the story has changed, to be honest.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He
also, when he's interrogating Jeremy, he says he's going to ask him all these questions, and he's like, what's your name? And he's like, Jeremy. And then it takes him forever to figure out how to spell Jeremy. He's like, well, I guess I got all the information I need.
Yeah. And then he says the mayor is going to give Jeremy a citation because of what he did. I feel like that's an odd choice of words, but it's like an award.
Yeah.
When I think citation,
I've always thought it was weird too, but yeah.
So anyway, we don't ever hear the police come, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Then we just skip ahead to the next day. Jeremy had to go to this ceremony at City Hall, and eventually everyone but Jeremy, I didn't write anything. I was just going on. Anyway, at this ceremony, like the mayor spoke, the police chief spoke. They talked about all they were going to do to make sure that the crime is nipped in the bud. And yeah, and then Jeremy is called to the mic, and he says, "Thank you for this award." And then he sits down.
And then he sits down. At this point, Connie interjects, and she can't believe that he lets the lie keep going.
Yeah.
To which Mr. Whitaker just tells her, what?
I was just going to say, there was one point earlier I didn't note where she was like, oh, I think I know how this is going to go. And it's clearly at this point that it did not go how she thought it was going to go.
Yeah. But yeah, she's like, he's not going to tell them? And Whit just goes, finish the story.
Yeah. So then, basically, the story finishes, and everyone went home. Eventually, the police stopped looking for the figment criminal, and everybody forgot about it. The citation got broken, and it was never heard of again. So everyone forgot about it, except for Jeremy, and he thought about it for the rest of his life.
The end.
The end, yeah. Just going to point out, I don't know what episode it is, but there is an episode way down the line where I think it's Connie, but it could be someone else, is reading the Tangled Web, and like they read the last line in another episode. I'm pretty sure.
Connie reads it in at least one more episode, if not 2 or 3, because sometimes they don't talk about what she's reading, and other times it's like, you're reading that story again. It's like when she ends up trying to write her own play or something.
Yeah. But anyway,
this is a favorite of Connie for the rest of forever.
Yeah. So yeah, Connie is just confused at the end of the story, like, why Jeremy never got caught? And then Whit's like, but did he really get away with it? Like, think about it. read the last line again. It's like Jeremy thought about it for the rest of his life. And then she kind of starts to realize, like, and Whit kind of helps her, that even if you don't get caught in your lie, what happens with it will stick with you. And so you still are, in a sense, paying.
There's still consequences.
Yeah, there's still consequences. So yeah, Whit tells her about how lies stay stuck in your mind. They just eat at you. And then it's about at this point where Connie realizes that Whit didn't just have her read the story because it was on top.
Yeah, she goes, "Why are you telling me all of this?"
Yeah. And then she's like, "It's about the concert, isn't it?" Which goes to show you how much she knows about how smart Mr. Whitaker is, kind of, because she didn't tell him about the concert.
It shows you how smart they both are and how much they already know about each other.
Mm-hmm. Because like she realizes that Whit knows about it, even though she didn't tell him about it.
Mm-hmm. She also realizes he's been teaching her a lesson about it for the last 20 minutes.
And so, yeah, Whit just wants Connie to realize how much a lie can affect people, and like specifically, it's the fact that she didn't tell her mom that she was going to go to the concert because she knew her mom wouldn't approve.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's fun. Interesting point here is it's another good point that a lie could also include something that you don't tell somebody. Like Connie, I assume from what we're told, probably told her mom that she was going with Debbie or to Debbie's house, but not what they were going to do.
Yeah. So she probably was justifying it in her own head as, I'm not lying, I'm just not telling.
Yeah. So, but then basically Whit tells her that she has to be responsible for her own actions. He's not going to tell her mom or anything. And basically just, he gives her the afternoon off to make it fully her decision. And then says he'll see her tomorrow.
Yep. I really like who through this whole thing, Whit is pretty much letting Connie work through the whole thing. Like, she connects the dots about lying. She, like, realizes that he's been helping her think through this. He leaves the decision up to her. So he makes it very clear to her what he thinks, and he teaches her why lying is wrong, but he leaves it all up to her. And I think that's really special, I guess, and it goes to show their relationship.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, then we're left with Connie calling her mom, and that's the end of the episode.
Yep.
So we can only assume that Connie did the right thing. I think that's the implication.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the episode. Chris talks about how lies hurt us and God. And then, like, how it hurts God because it makes him sad, not because it actually physically, or whatever. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
And then she talks about how Abram told Pharaoh that Sarai was his sister, and how that all didn't quite work out, because that's an interesting story in the Bible, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. She does fully, like, she doesn't clean up the story for the kids. She tells them, and and then Pharaoh marries Sarai, and then all of Pharaoh's house gets sick. Like, she doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No. Although the one thing she actually didn't mention is how Abram was telling, like, a half-truth or something, because she
really was his sister.
Yeah, his half-sister or something like that.
Yeah. But we don't want to confuse kids into thinking the half-truths.
Yeah, that's true. No, this is a side note before we wrap up. I just now realized that your microphone blends in with your wall.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Not for long.
But anyway, yes. Wrap it up.
Yeah. Good episode. I really liked this one, and it's very quintessential Odyssey, and it does a great job of teaching a lesson through a story.
And this is the first I think we hear of Whit doing any writing, but it's also one of his writings that'll come back a few times.
Yep. Yeah, remember this story. Our next episode is another Officer Harley episode, so we shall see how that goes. It is called Bobby's Valentine.
Oh boy.
Bobby doesn't have a great track record, even though it's not always the same Bobby. Anything with Bobby is just never quite great. So, We'll see how that one goes next week. Until then, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Sibling Group Chat. Subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Comment. Do we have any specific comments for this episode?
I don't think so. That was me commenting.
Oh, yeah. Just Just comment something. Say hi or something. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.